Robert is the co-founder of hackforkids.com. Hackforkids.com, spelled with a K, so H-A-K for kids with a Z.com. Yes, our life as hackers is super confusing sometimes with these terms, but Hack for Kids, and it's an official, the first official youth conference for designated to ethical hacking that's taking place in Chicago. Robert, thank you so much for being a part of this event, joining us now live from Chicago. If I get the okay from our AV team that we can switch over, just let me know. Robert will be joining us live from Chicago. The same.
Hi.
Hi. No, it's not yours.
No,
Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, good morning from Chicago. Hi, Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for having me here. I was so excited to hear that I was accepted to speak, and so bummed that I can't actually be there in person. I really, really wanted to come and visit your beautiful city, but hopefully I do really well this time and I get invited back next year, right? So my name's Robert Wagner. I'm Mr. Minion on the Twitters. I don't tweet a whole lot, but it's a great place to get a hold of me if you like. Just a quick little introduction. So I need to make that active again. So I've got about 20 years of experience in IT and InfoSec. I started off my security career as a third shift SOC analyst, where we were running a 24/7 SOC with 4 people and 1 floater. So I learned a heck of a lot. It was a great experience, but it was definitely a hectic time. Moved my way up through security engineer and architect. Like Karen said, I'm a co-founder of Hack for Kids, where we teach kids about internet safety, security, and ethics, and a co-organizer of BurbSec and BurbSecCon in Chicago. We'll talk about what that is in a minute. My opinions in this deck are my own or those of other researchers, and not necessarily those of my company, although they'd be really silly if they disagreed with me, because it should be really great information. And of course, my biggest claim to fame is the dog I taught to ride motorcycle with me. This is Rocket, and he's a fantastic dog. So on to the presentation. So I have been putting this together, this deck. It's been a living deck for many, many years now. And I put it together because I saw that too many companies kept getting fixated on buying technologies to fix their problem, right? Buy this new technology, buy that technology. And when I was in the SOC, and it results in shiny object syndrome. So when I was in the SOC, we had a problem. It's the same problem every company has. There was never enough budget to actually buy all these shiny things, right? Or to even get new headcount and things like that. Even training, sometimes there wasn't enough budget to get everybody the training they wanted. So I started noticing that I needed to find out free, easy, or cheap ways to fill our security gaps. So every time I was at a conference and I heard somebody say, well, if they had just done this, or this is easy to mitigate, you just do that, and it was a free or easy mitigation, I would write that down, and I've just kept that all together and put this into this deck. Especially because a lot of times if you missed that presentation and didn't get to hear that easy mitigation, you might never actually hear about it. But over and over again, I saw that the best place to start, every high-performing security group that I saw started with the most important security tool in their organization. It's the one everybody's got. And what tool is that? Yeah, it's you. Now, that's not to call you guys tools. That's not my intent at all. But every company that I saw that focused on the people first did so much better. I saw a small security team of 5 outperform a larger security team of 25, because the larger team focused on just technology. They always wanted the shiny object, right? Whereas the smaller team challenged each other. They taught each other how to script. They taught each other how to hack. And they did a fabulous, fabulous job with just 5 people. So the problem, of course, that we're describing here is this stupid Venn diagram, right? Who hates this Venn diagram? I hate it because every place I go, we see people focusing always on the technology, buying more technology. And what happens if you disregard, if you ignore your people and process? You get something that looks like this. And nobody wants this for their security group, right? This is not the description we want for our security team, not at all. So how do we do that? Now, I don't think I have to tell most of the people at BsidesTLV that there's fantastic information to be found at HackerCons, but managers, if you're listening, and please, dear God, be listening, this is a great place to be sending your people. I've learned so much, and you'll see much of what I've learned from my mentors, from Mike Poor, Ed Skutis, Mubix, Dave Kennedy, Danny Harris, Ben 10, Ryan Kovar, Dave Harold, and more. And you can see most of the conferences online. DEF CON, ShmooCon, TourCon, most of the B-Sides, including BsidesTLV, broadcast and record their sessions now, especially now with COVID-19. And they're free or very cheap. HackerCons are typically very cheap. They're free, and I'm seeing CISOs and security managers going at them. The problem we had, of course, when I was in the SOC was, well, 3 people could go to really expensive training this year, and 3 people could go next year when we had more budget. For the price of just one of those classes, you could send your entire staff to a good event like BsidesTLV. And if you managers are not, you're pissing your money away, because this is great places for them to go learn. Make sure that they go, do everything you can to get your people to these kinds of events. In addition, there are great researchers sharing out in their blogs. So InfoSec Taylor Swift, hopefully most people have heard of them. The Decent Security blog there is fantastic, teaches you how to secure your Windows and how to log your Windows to look for evil. Hacks for Pancakes, another fantastic researcher who shares prolifically online. Her blog, Tisiphony.net, has great DFIR information. And then there's the concept of CitySec. It started about the mid-2000s, where rather than having formal meetups like ISSA and ISACA, which are good organizations too, how about just an informal meetup where people get together, have some beers, be very social but informal. So BurbSec, which is suburban sec, because it started up in the suburbs of Chicago. There's 5 of those now every month in Chicago. And for the price of a beer, I learn what my red teaming friends and pen testing friends are doing. And by the way, they're freaking bored. They're getting into organizations the same way every single time. And I guarantee you, if that's how they're getting into organizations on paid engagements, that's how the bad guys are getting into your organization. So if you're a blue teamer, sit with those red team people, listen to their stories, understand how they're working their attacks. If you don't have the advantage of having your own red team at your organization to do purple team exercises, learn from those people. It's a great way to go. If you're going to set one up in your own city, if you don't have one going on, the formula is simple. Get 3 people from 3 different organizations, preferably, because if any one of those organizations is having a real security incident, you've got 2 other people that can show up. Meet at the same day of the month, like the first Thursday of the month, whatever, at the same place. And the organizers' jobs are just to show up, make people feel welcome. When new people show up, say, hey, new person, welcome. Come on, this is the group. Come on, have a drink, join us. And then make sure that the bar, of course, remembers that you're coming, and just make it a welcoming place. And we've grown to 5 here in Chicago, and it's a fantastic method. So that's how we level up our people. But how do we level up our users themselves, right? Those videos, the security awareness videos, they're so awful you want to rub glass in your eyes, right? They're terrible. We have to do them anyway because it's a compliance issue. But how about doing something that really teaches our users about security and gets them excited about it? So I got this idea from Ben 10. You can actually see his whole video from DerbyCon like 2013, 2014. Just Google it. But it's a great idea. He gamified security awareness in his organization. And it was simple. All he did was say, hey, everybody in my organization, you're going to start seeing some security related issues, like you might have seen in that security awareness training you had. The first person that reports any single one of those security issues will get a gift certificate to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever your local coffee shop is. At the end of the week, whoever gets the most will get a gift card for, I don't know, $100, $200. No, nothing too expensive. Within a couple of days, People were trash talking other people at the water cooler. They were like, you're going down. I'm totally reporting more than you are. People started reporting things like there was a strange box on outside the side door. It turned out to be just one of those rodent control devices, but still people were paying attention. Somebody else reported the CFO for not having their badge on as they were going through the halls, which was against policy, which is great. And the best one actually happened about 15 minutes into the contest. He gets a call from a very excited woman. She's like, hey, I see one of your things. And he's like, what things? And she's like, the security things that you said, you know? And he's like, wow, we haven't started yet. What is it you're seeing? And she's like, oh, this pop-up comes up every once in a while and it says, click here to authorize. I don't know what it is. I just click it. And once he took his face out of his palm, he said, yeah, how long has that been happening for? And she said, oh, like 6 months now. Yeah, he had a real security incident 15 minutes in. He had turned his people into carbon-based intrusion detection systems, and it was beautiful. Now, I will give you one word of caution. So as I've talked to people, around the country, around the US at least, and they've said, yeah, we did that, and it worked great. One place told me it worked great for a while, and then we ran into a problem. We had some users that were so overzealous that they started doing things like downloading Nessus to scan for vulnerabilities so that they could report that. Now, if your users can download and run Nessus, you also have other problems that you need to address. But there are some users who may get a little overzealous. So just be careful about this idea. So Emmet, yes, for those of you who don't know it, do not just turn it on. It will break shit all over your organization, but it can be helpful. It's designed, it's free from Microsoft. It's designed to protect the apps, memory of apps you designate. You got to test the heck out of it. There are bypasses for it, like ROP chaining. And yes, it end of lifed in 2018. That's if everything, all your Windows at least, is on Win 10 by now. And can you honestly say that it is? And what does every ATM in North America still run on to this day? Yeah, it's Windows XP. I mean, it's embedded Windows XP, but my point is that there's always going to be pockets of stuff that may be able to leverage this. And I wonder, somebody told me that it may even be built into the next version of Defender. And I know Dana spoke earlier. I'd love to hear if that's actually part of the tool as of now. But it reduces the number of tools an attacker can use, and you've made it harder for an attacker to win. So why are passwords still the bane of security practitioners, blue teamers' existence, right? This should be solved by now. And the best answer, of course, is two-factor, right? Two-factor cures a lot of sins. In fact, if you work at a shiny object syndrome on something, get two-factor. It goes beyond shiny object. It actually works. It does stuff that's really helpful, right? Solves a lot of sins. But not only does not use the same password for banking and Twitter, but how many of you think you might have a domain admin who went to the trouble to create a really complex password, like 18 characters long, all random, memorized it, and then when they had to sign up for their banking account or their local Home Depot or whatever, they also used the same password? Right? Yeah, it's not great. In fact, it's so bad, the password situation. Who here has seen this XKCD cartoon by now? Hopefully most of you have. If you hadn't, the point is this that we've been teaching right here for 20 years now, teaching people to use leet speak and replace letters with no. This is absolute crap. This cartoon is about 9 years old now, and 9 years ago, it took 3 days for a password cracking rig to crack the hash on something like this. And people that are running more modern ones using GPUs, they're telling me an hour, maybe minutes. This is terrible. This is bad. We've got to get rid of this. Get two-factor when you can, but it's not free. It's not cheap, right? So until then, what can we do? Well, password phrases, heck of a lot better. So 9 years ago, it took something like 550 years to pass correct horse battery staple. Don't obviously use that one. It's in every dictionary now, but password cracking dictionary. But add even now a password cracking rig, a few hours, maybe a day, but you throw in an extra number, you throw in an extra special character, and the entropy on this still goes way up. And last but not least, especially for like your domain admins, KeePass is free. There are other password vaults that are free that they could be leveraging. Now, some of my red team friends go, Yeah, but if you have a password vault and I fish my way on your system, then I have your whole list of passwords. To which I say, yeah, but if you have one password and it's on a sticky note under your keyboard and I sneak in the back door with the smokers, I still have all your passwords. So a password vault is at least some mitigation. Password phrases, some mitigation. Get the two-factor as soon as you can. Authy is free, but I haven't heard anybody implementing Authy. It's a free two-factor open source tool through an enterprise, like through an entire large organization. So your mileage may vary on that one. Smaller organizations, you may be able to leverage it pretty quickly. So Java. So who here still has Java 6 somewhere in your organization? Now I can't see your hands, but some of you are laughing right now. I know some of you may not realize it, but I guarantee you have Java 6 somewhere in your organization. And the reason is always the same. There is some mission critical app. It's like what the whole company depends on. It runs in the back office. The developer died like 10 years ago and no one knows how to update it. No one knows how to fix it. So here you are stuck with this old version of Java, which needs old Java agents, Java 6 to connect to it. Now, the great thing is you don't have to let Java connect to the internet, right? That's where the problem lies, is when that old version of Java connects to the internet, that's when you get owned. Well, every instance of Java installs with its own user agent string. And you can actually block that user agent string at the outbound proxy. So by blocking that, you don't let it out to the internet. Laptops are a problem, of course, because they leave the network. You're going to have to do, I mean, you could mitigate it by backhauling everybody through the VPN. That would be a freaking nightmare, but it is a mitigation. Probably a better one would be a GPO that says when the system's off the corporate network, Java doesn't run at all. Just shut that down. So block those old versions. Don't let Java go outside, and get rid of it eventually. You gotta get someone in to fix that old app. So this is great. So this is from blueteamer.blogspot.com. This is every extension that is executable that you should be blocking at the email gateway. Now, can an attacker obfuscate the extension and get in some other way? Absolutely, but still block all of these. It will get rid of some low-hanging fruit. And I mean the whole list. Put the whole list in, block it all. Just do it. Be like Nike, please. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Robert, yeah, but there might be some people in my organization that need their .cer, and I don't know what to do. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If Apple can tell us that we can live without a headset jack and we're just going to have to deal with it, you can tell your users all this is getting shut down. Now, have a really robust exception policy in place. And I mean, you need to be able to act on it fast. There will be a few people that have a legit need for one or more of these extensions. And you can make exceptions for that tiny group of people. But for the rest of everybody else, just get rid of this. It needs to go away. And it's free and it's cheap and it actually works. It does stuff. So antivirus, you've got it anyway, right? It's of limited value, right? But it's not completely useless. So one nice thing about every major antivirus is that it can be used to search for IOCs. Now, you could also use your phone scanner if your phone scanner is authenticating to everything and it needs to authenticate to every device out there to use it in that fashion. Not everybody does that. So AV is out there on everything though, again, usually because of compliance reasons. So if you take that list, right, of things that are coming through and you dump that into Cuckoo or something and extract your indicators of compromise, dump it in your AV is now helping you. In addition, heuristics still finds some malicious code, right? Heuristics was one of this attempts at doing things without it being signature based, right? To actually analyze what's going on and figure out that it's malicious by a heuristic check. It's pretty noisy. It can be pretty noisy. So I imagine that's why people have disabled it in some organizations. Have your IT teams do the work to tweak it, get it up and running. It will catch some low-hanging fruit. And last but not least, is anybody just checking the AV alerts? It's free and cheap to do, but I have so many times seen attackers go through an organization, they're tripping off AV left and right, but it doesn't matter because nobody's looking. And by the time they get domain admin, it's game over, too late. I love this next section. This whole section is, some people call it honey tokens, canaries, landmines, whatever, tripwires, not the product tripwire, just a tripwire in concept. And it's great. It's the whole process of tricking the attacker into doing something that lets you know that they're there without them knowing that you know that they're there. Or maybe they even know that you know that they're there, but by that time it's too late. So in any event, one of the easiest ones is something like a honey file. You get together with your IT team, you put a hidden file in the golden image. It goes out to all your systems. If you want to get really tricky, you can even use a little bit of scripting, a little bit of regex to make the file name different on every system that it goes on, just a little bit different size, but you call it something juicy. Credit cards, password list, something that an attacker just wouldn't be able to resist, and then alert on access to that one file. You can monitor your entire user base just with this, right? Very simple, very easy way. You don't have to log the world. You don't have to monitor the world. Just this one simple thing to get you started. Free, easy, works great. Prone to some false positives, right? If someone drops down to the command prompt and does a dir/s, you are going to get a false positive on this. I don't see users doing that a whole lot anymore, right? Make sure you don't whitelist it out from your things like your AV scanners and stuff like that, so that they don't touch the file. But just this one simple thing can catch so much evil. You want a little bit better fidelity? Let's do something even trickier. Let's create a fake domain admin account. You call it domain admin, whatever. Put the password actually in the description of this account. Literally say, and the password is blah. The attacker will think you are the dumbest window admin that must have ever existed, right? They're going to see that when they're enumerating Active Directory. They're going to go, I have you now. And all they're really going to get is nothing, right? You put this in the admins group, you make it log on hour 0. It can't actually be used, but then again, you alert if the actual account is used in Active Directory, and now you've caught someone creeping through your networks, right? Trying to gain access with this fake account. Even some more landmines. So who here is anybody actually a DBA? I hope not. If you are, put your fingers in yours, because they're such prima donnas, right? We can't put anything on their databases to monitor for security. So instead of putting something on, let's collude with the DBAs and be clever. Let's make a honey database or a honey table. Don't publish a schema, only have a few people that even know about it, hide it somewhere, and then alert just on simple access of this table or this database. Call it something juicy again, call it credit cards, call it something someone would want to steal from your organization, and alert simply on access to that table or database. It works beautifully, and it's not prone to false positives. If you do get one, obviously your DBA needs to go back to remedial DBA school, because they just did something like select star from everything, right? Great way to just monitor people trying to access your data. And then this last one, so this is great. So you can download this from GitHub. It's called InvokeRun as. All it does is you deploy it with SCCM or whatever through all your Windows machines. It loads a fake admin account and a fake set of credentials into memory. And then again, just like the other one, you'll alert on use, but this is great. So this is going to catch people trying to scrape creds from memory, something like Mimikatz or something like that. It's not likely to hit a false positive because your users shouldn't be able to do something like that. If they are, again, you have bigger problems, but a great way to catch a potentially more advanced attacker within your organization, or at least an attacker that knows how to run the right tools and scrape creds. Just recently I ran into this one, the concept of honey people, even a honey org. But basically, instead of taking those phishing emails that usually go into the report phishing email address, pass those phishing email on to a honey person who you've created an entire dossier for. They should have a LinkedIn account, social media, all this stuff. And that honey person can then interact with your phisher, with your attacker, and get you more information than you would have if you would just run VirusTotal or something against the link. So very clever idea. I like this a lot, and starting to explore more in scripting that and delivering a whole honey org within an organization. Very clever idea. Other quick ways to stop attackers in their tracks. So using a web form to authenticate to the proxy is a great way to stop a lot of attacks. I even heard it suggested, I think Nubik said, that you can go so far as to ask users to allow a site once per day. So the first person that goes to Google, they get a little pop-up and say, is it okay to go to Google? And they say yes or no. But obviously, you don't want them saying no to Google. The idea really isn't that they should know whether or not the site is okay or not. It's just that automated stuff won't know what to do with something like that, right? So it's a little stopping block for a script. There's a WPAD vulnerability, a man-in-the-middle vulnerability. These two null routes take that mitigate that vulnerability. So just by deploying those two null routes, you can mitigate that WPAD vulnerability. In addition, I want you to get rid of NetBIOS. I know you can't get rid of it this week or this year even, but have it in your plan. 5-year plan, I don't care what it is, get rid of NetBIOS. It just allows so much evil. There's the LLMNR attacks that it allows for. And if anybody's heard of the tool Responder, it's one of the first things most pen testers and red teamers download. I'm sure it's what most attackers will download as well. And with NetBIOS, it will wait for NetBIOS broadcast and then lie. It'll say, hey, yeah, that's me. I'm the server you're looking for. Go ahead, give me your hash, give me your creds, whatever. I'll take care of everything for you. NetBIOS needs to be gotten rid of. So make a plan, do it logically, but get rid of it. Also disabling DNS for internal namespace. So again, making it harder for your attacker to get outside, to get to their tools, to exfiltrate data. Your internal name servers do not need to do forward lookups for outbound IP addresses, right? That's the proxy's job. Let the proxy do it. And if you're using a web form to authenticate to the proxy, now you've doubled down. You're mitigating lots more just by leveraging those two together. More roadblocks. So Laps is free. It's free from Windows, or if it's not free, you can negotiate it in with your contract anyway. Make them give it to you for free. It does a good job. If you have local admin still within your organization, and it's going to allow, if it's the same local admin and password on every system, it's going to allow an attacker to jump from machine to machine to machine, lateral moving. Laps takes care of that. It randomizes local admin password. There are some bypasses for it, but for the most part, it works really well. Now get rid of local admin as soon as you can, but just like NetBIOS, I understand there are business reasons. Some of these things hang around. Get rid of them as you can, make a plan. And then the last one, got this from Dave Kennedy, this is great. So this is nothing more than a simple GPO. Deny access to this computer, to your workstations and laptops from the network. Yeah, IT people still need to connect to systems, but they're IT. They can flip that GPO. You put this on and deny access, and there's no reason anybody other than IT should ever need to connect to your users' systems. So just block that. You do this, and all of a sudden an attacker needs to either hope for a vulnerability that will allow them to laterally move, or they need to start phishing each and every individual target in your organization to get to their goal. You're going to make their lives freaking miserable. You do this. So what about the logs, Robert? So some of you know I work for Splunk. So how about some tricky stuff with logs? Doesn't mean you have to have Splunk to do this. This is all stuff you can do with whatever, any logs. So pass a hash. Yeah, it's on the decline right now. It's typically not the go-to, but this still pretty good fidelity. You could even run this against your backlog of logs. See if pass a hash was in use before, especially maybe by an insider is a great way to see if you haven't had any insider threat problems in the past. Your mileage may vary, but it's worth a go on this one. So DNS and DNS logs are another fantastic place to go looking for evil. It's very hard for attackers not to leave their fingerprint on DNS. So you can look for unauthorized DNS, and this is just 3 different ways to do it. They all get you the same results. It just depends on what the source of your DNS log is. Your DNS spoofing activity, similar concept. And then this third one here, finding clients connecting to multiple DNS servers. One of my peers came up with this, and I thought it was brilliant because by default, how many DNS servers does any particular host know about? 2, right? So if it's connecting to more than 2 DNS servers, unless you've got some sort of round robining going on, and you can, again, mitigate that. But you find a host connecting to multiple DNS servers, that's pretty freaking weird. You want to go hunting that down. Extremely long DNS queries. So this would be used for things like data exfiltration, right? So quick and easy ways to look for extremely long. You can do over 2 standard deviations. This URL toolkit, by the way, that's another free tool from Splunk. You can use this, but again, you don't need to use Splunk to get 2 standard deviations. You can do your own math against it, or 200 characters long. Now these aren't magic numbers, right? They're a place to start. You're gonna have to tweak up and down based on your environment to get the right amount of deviation. It could be 2.1, 2.4, maybe under, whatever. 200 characters long, maybe not quite long enough, maybe too long. Just tweak it a bit, and you should start finding very suspicious DNS traffic if it's within your organization. Entropy is another great way to look for unusual DNS. So by applying Shannon entropy to something like google.com, you get an entropy score of 2.6, whereas this long string right here, that's going to get you an entropy score of 4.28, which is really high. In entropy math, that's it doesn't seem like a widespread, but that is a huge difference in entropy between those two things. And then you just apply that to your DNS queries, and you can start pulling out some very unusual stuff. So domains with high entropy, subdomains with high entropy. You will have to filter out for CDNs, right? So the Alexa 1 million, 2 million, something like that. Filter out the Alexa for CDNs. And what remains, depending on how you tweak that, should again be pretty evil. So to give you an example, things like these long strings here, you can see everything ended up with a score of over 4.4. All of it really high entropy. All of it, if it's not a CDN, would be pretty suspicious and something your hunters might want to track down. So algorithms, right? So AI and algorithms is all the hot shit. Everybody wants to sell you some fancy, shiny AI. You can do it for free. So to get you started, you can download something like R or SciPy, scientific kit, the Python kit for scientific computing. You can even download some free tools from Splunk. It all works the same way. So to give an example of how you can leverage it, we downloaded an interesting data set. So in the US, the government healthcare is called Medicare and Medicaid. And you can go here to the research tab and download tons of data. So we downloaded a year's worth of prescriptions. You don't, of course, HIPAA and everything, you don't know who the prescription was for, but you get everything else. What it was for, who wrote it, when they wrote it, where they wrote it, all of that great stuff. We said, let's go see what we can just mine out of this data. So we reduced it down to just the opioid prescriptions, right? Figuring there might be something that we could find that would be interesting there. And this is all we did. So we ran it through 2 algorithms. The first algorithm is called PCA, and PCA basically is an algorithm to take a huge data set and reduce it down to X number of data points. So we chose 3, and you can see the results, that PC 1, 2, and 3 right there. Those are whatever the algorithm figured out is the most relevant things about this data set. And then we ran it through just one other algorithm. It's called k-means, and k-means is a clustering algorithm. And you can see here that it created this lovely cluster and then this tail of outliers. At this point, it's Sesame Street math. Which of these things are not like the other? We don't know why these are outliers after just running it through the algorithm, but with some simple Googling, if you come down here to the list of providers, these are the doctors, you'll find that John Couch here is in jail for 240 months for prescription fraud. We didn't know what was going to come out of it, but that was an interesting outlier. If we were to scroll further down, there's another doctor. And by the way, he was an outlier because of the number of prescriptions he was writing. He was writing way more than other doctors were writing. If we scroll further down, we'll find another doctor who, the reason that doctor was an outlier is that he was a pediatrician. And remember, these are opioids, and I don't know too many 2-year-olds that need Oxycontin on a regular basis. Although every time I fly, there always seems to be one that I really wish I had. But I digress. So, so just by simply using some very simple algorithms against a data set, you can start looking for weird stuff. This could be very helpful for hunters. You could leverage this against weird traffic sessions, weird protocols, all sorts of stuff with the organization. I've seen it used all the time to catch fraud, actually. So things like online fraud or royalty fraud, like with loyalty points and things like that. We can apply something as simple as this, and then look for the outliers in those web transactions and start finding fraud that way too. Very clever. And if you can start finding fraud for your organization, you might get them to give you some more budget. So hopefully this was a great set of tips and tricks. I hope everybody found at least one gem out of it that they can leverage back at their own organization. So go out there and use it, because only you can prevent InfoSec dumpster fires. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with this. If you do, if something works for you, let me know. Or if you come up with a great idea, let me know, because I love sharing this with organizations who are struggling with budget, who need free ways to shore up their things. So you can contact me here if you like, or on my Twitter. And thanks very much, everybody.